All right, guys. So here we go. Taking notes. Now you're probably thinking, seriously, Mr. C, we have to watch a video about taking notes? And my answer is yes. And here's the reason why. Not a whole lot of people know how to take good notes. I think it's just something that nobody's really ever taught us. So the notes that we do take, they stink. So I want to take some time, show you guys this thing called Cornell Notes. Because these Cornell Notes, you'll hear me say this over and over and over again this year, they are one of the most important tools that you will be learning how to use throughout this whole year. And what it's going to do is it's going to take the idea of taking notes and turning it into something called making notes. Now, making notes is very different than taking notes, and it will help you do very well in this class. So what I want to do is show you really quick what the format of Cornell Notes are, and then we're going to go into each of the different little parts of the Cornell Notes. So the first part, because there are 4 parts, the first part is the essential questions, and the essential questions are kind of your guide to your notes. They're going to give you the big ideas that you should be able to know by the time that you're done taking these notes. I'll talk about the essential questions, where they come from, and how they help you here in just a second. But those essential questions are your guide. Now, the second part of the Cornell Notes, and kind of the meat of your Cornell Notes, are the actual notes themselves. And there are a couple different formats. They're kind of fill in as we go. So whether you're watching a video like this and you're taking notes, or you're in class and we're going through a PowerPoint and you're taking notes, the bulk of what you're going to be doing is in the notes section over here on the left-hand side. Now, related to the notes section over here on the right-hand side is the questions and diagrams. Now, those questions and diagrams, obviously diagrams are things that we're going to be drawing. The questions, though, are important, and they're going to be a good study tool when you're studying for quizzes and things like that. Now, the very last part of the Cornell Notes is this summary down here. And the summary is just a way for you to kind of go back through your notes, study those essential questions, and help you put everything that you've learned into one spot. So the essential questions. The essential questions, as you can see, usually there's either 1 or 2, maybe sometimes there's 3 or 4, depending on how big the notes are. The essential questions come from the learning targets. And those learning targets are based on what the quizzes are going to be. So quiz questions. So really, these 2 essential questions should cover a couple different learning targets, and those learning targets will, be 3, 4, maybe 5 questions on the quiz. So if you know how to answer these 2 essential questions, you should be really good to go on the quizzes. Okay, so again, this is your guide to your notes section. Should be really, really helpful as you go through and study your notes. Now let's take a look at the notes section. Now sometimes I will give you your Cornell Notes. I would say most of the times I'll give you your Cornell Notes, and they'll kind of look like this. They'll be a fill-in-the-blank style. So this one's about factors about climate change, and in this case, factor number 1 is something called eccentricity. So that would be something that you fill in as you go. As we're going through the video, or as you're going through the notes in class, you'll be filling this in as you go. So shape gradually changes. And you guys can kind of see what happens. You just kind of fill this thing in. Maybe there's a couple diagrams that I want you to draw. So this would be the sun, and then in a circular orbit, obviously the Earth goes around in more of a circle, whereas in an elliptical, here's our sun, and then our orbit's a little bit more elliptical. Okay, but this is just stuff that you'd be filling in as you go through a PowerPoint or something like that. Now, this stuff right here should answer the essential question, the essential questions. I'll just abbreviate EQs. Okay, so anything and everything that goes over here in the notes section should help you answer those essential questions when you get to your summary. All right. Now, the other side of our notes is going to be, the questions and diagrams. And you can kind of see sometimes when I give you your Cornell notes, I'll also give you a couple different questions, or I'll give you questions over here on this side. Some of those questions are going to be about, prior knowledge, things that you already know. So prior knowledge, sometimes they're review questions. Sometimes they're just kind of like check-in questions. Like this one right here, this is more of prior knowledge. Maybe you know something, maybe you don't know something about how orbit changes the seasons. I'd want you to write down your ideas in the blank space right here. Other times this one is kind of a review or a check of what's based on the left-hand side or the notes section. So you'd circle this, and then you'd write down your answer down over here. All right. So this is more from the teacher. This is more from me. Now there are some times over on the right-hand side, this is blank. There's nothing here. Okay. Doesn't mean that you should leave it blank. What I want you to do is put some questions of your own in there. Okay. So these questions could be, like review questions. What is eccentricity? Right. And then you could answer that there, or it's something like ask Mr. C about something. Like, I still don't get it. What does he mean by this over here? Okay, so this is a way for you to kind of go back and take a look. And another cool thing that you can do is use this right-hand side over here, okay, as more of a study tool, right? You could write a whole bunch of questions over here on the right-hand side. You could cover up the left-hand side that has all of the answers, and then when you're done, you can get rid of this sheet of paper over here, double check your answers. If you've got all of them right, you should be good for the quiz or good for the test. If you got some of them wrong, you know what you need to study. All right, so you can kind of see how these Cornell notes are there to help you study rather than just something to do while you're sitting in class. Now, the very last thing in your Cornell notes is the summary. Okay, and that summary, like it says, is answer the essential questions after the notes are complete. And usually this is homework. So after we're done with the notes, I'll probably give you a little bit of time in class to start, but then you'll have your summary and you'll start this essential question number 1, and then you'll write your answer. Essential question number 2, and then you'll write your answer. So again, you can also use this as a study tool, right? You could go back to your essential questions, cover them up, or cover up the rest of your notes, see if you can answer them, compare them to your summary questions or your summary answers down here. And if you're on the right track, then you don't need to study it as much. If you're kind of not in the right spot, then you can go back, take a look at your notes because they're right here. If you need to, you can come see me and we can talk about this as well. Hopefully you understand that the Cornell Notes is more of a study tool rather than just something to do while you're sitting in class. It's a really good tool for you to use, and if you have any questions about any of that, let me know and I'll help you out.